talk to us about how you started doing the show at WADK and about how you started covering local sports.
Well, first I was at URI and I was doing their radio. And then when I was rounding out in my senior year, I tried to get an internship at WADK because I'm from Newport. That was the local radio station. I knew Bob Angel, who covers high school sports there. He knew me from my high school baseball career a little bit. So I got an internship. And then that kind of snowballed into, all right, well, what do you want to do? I wanted to do sports. I knew some people with the goals, so I covered some of those games a little bit because of Mike Falcone and some of the ownership there. And then started tagging along with Bob at some of the high school broadcasts. And then the big ticket was formed as originally just a Saturday 1 hour show. And then it kind of, again, snowballed into the drive time, 4 to 5 every day. And the big ticket is actually a nod to probably my favorite Celtic player of all time, Kevin Garnett, the big ticket himself. So that's where that name kind of came from. But it's been 4 years, 5 years now, still going strong and in that 4 to 5 Monday through Friday time slot.
Now, I have to tell you, I listen every day. Um, and I have a bone to pick with you later about some of these picks, man.
I know they can't all be winners, John.
But what you did covering or doing play by play, right? You did play by play with Bob.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a big difference from what you're doing now, sitting there for an hour by yourself most of the time, right?
yeah, yeah.
Just breaking apart, breaking down each game for the evening for the weekend. Big difference.
Yeah, I've slowly realized, and I feel like this is something that you can kind of tell when you're listening to people on the radio. You can really tell the people that actually watched the games to the people that just kind of caught the highlights. You know what I mean? So that's something I've always kind of prided myself on because it is just me most of the time for a whole hour. So I watch these games all night. You know, the West Coast, I'm up until 1 a.m. and watching these West Coast games, man. So yeah, to fill an hour. When I first started, it was kind of daunting and it was a kind of a pain when it was just you kind of snowballing. But you see guys like Colin Coward do it, and if you're confident in what you're talking about, it gets easier as you kind of go along, and you can put together something nice for the listeners, I think.
Right down the street from me, by the way, Dan Patrick has a studio above a bike shop in Milford, Connecticut.
Ha, no kidding.
So, talk to us about the prep, right? I mean, this time of year is obviously it's feast or famine. This is feast,
Mm,
right? I mean, with the
yeah.
NBA playoffs, with
No,
MLB.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this is a great time of year. The summer starts to get a little tough, no doubt about that. But I have alerts on my phone for just basically everything. That's where my prep comes from. And basically my camera roll in my phone is half pictures of my dog and just screenshots of various different sports notifications, whether it's coming from ESPN or whatever app I have, or something from Twitter from like Adam Schefter or something like that. That's how I kind of begin the prep of my show, is just kind of going through my camera roll of things I screenshotted from the past 24 hours, and then it's kind of starting to build notes off of that and then going from there. That's really the preparation and how it kind of boils down and how that kind of starts the process.
Obviously, on WADK, New England centric, right? I mean, you have your teams that
Yeah.
you focus on.
Yeah.
What are some of the teams that you focus on?
Obviously, big Celtics. I'm a big Celtics guy. Pats, Red Sox. We talked about this. I'm not as, and I'll hand up. I'm not as well versed with hockey as I probably should be and would like to be. I have bad eyes, so following the puck becomes a little bit a little
Well,
bit
they did
tough.
try and make it fluorescent a few
I
years ago.
know,
I don't.
man, and I liked that. A lot of people didn't like that. I like that. But yeah, following the professional teams around here, and then as a whole, I consider myself pretty well versed in baseball, basketball, football, but really kind of putting an emphasis on those Boston and New England teams for sure. And hey, right now is a really good time. Well, not as much for the Bruins, but a really good time for New England sports.
What a colossal letdown that must have been. I mean, for as an Islander fan, I have to say that there's a certain frustration to making it every couple of years and knowing you don't belong in the Big
Yeah,
Dan. It's frustrating to make it and know you don't belong there, and then just wait for the elimination to come.
I think it's kind of so funny how like around here everybody was very excited about the Bruins, of course, but there's
Historical.
at the same time, there was always kind of that in the back of your head. Oh, but wait, everybody who wins the President's Trophy seems to kind of fall flat. And so I feel like that was always kind of in the back of everybody's mind in terms of like Bruins fans. And then the nightmare turned into reality in the first round.
Let me say this, and I have to tell you that my day is not complete until I hear Teddy Horan say, "What does it? Get yourself some walking around money.
Yeah, yeah. Get
Shop
yourself some walk
local."
around money.
Right.
Yeah.
So I put my bets in every day. The DraftKings, the FanDuel has been a game changer for me. I've admitted here on this show that I'm obsessed with it. Um, but my bets have been on, and they've yielded results. Florida Panthers, man, just mark my
Yeah,
words. They just win,
I know it. I
just
know it.
win.
It's I found it very the two sports. Well, obviously for me, to gamble on has obviously hockey because, as I mentioned, hand up, not as well versed in hockey, and baseball is just you don't really. I try to mainly look at all right. Well, you got a nice pitching matchup here. This guy's been hot. Team's been rolling, but it's kind of straight up in the air. It's tough. It really is.
I
So I'll
swear to
try
you,
to.
Teddy. I sometimes I feel like, all right, it's been a few days. Oakland's got to win a game, so I'll put my I'll include them in my
Yeah.
parlay. I want to end on the NBA, obviously, because that's the biggest thing right now for your area. But let's talk about sports wagering. What first of all, what do you think of the FanDuels and the DraftKings of the world? Because I used to go to a bookie, but I also used to, when it first became legal on kiosks at some of the casinos,
Yeah.
I would make a trip with all my bets and get them in at the kiosk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you think of where we are at now?
It's awesome, man. I mean, it's so much easier to gamble, and honestly, I mean, it's not the biggest part of sports, but it adds an element of excitement. You get a little bit more fired up if you've got something riding on a specific team. So I think it's nice that we've kind of turned what used to be, I don't know, I wouldn't say a negative thing, but it's now looked at in a nicer light. It's not necessarily a bad thing to be gambling on these games. So first with FanDuel and the DraftKings, I mean, their daily fantasy, that was just an incredibly unique thing that I think was really cool to integrate into gambling. And then now kind of just snowballing off that and becoming basically a bookie, an online bookie. It's so accessible now. It's something that we really hadn't seen, and it's nice. I mean, it's an easier way to kind of like if you're at a bar and you're meeting new people or something. That's a nice little talking point. Like, I got $20 on the money line of the Celtics game right here, and then you made a friend for life right there as you're kind of watching the Celtics and going crazy at your local bar.
Um, what is the secret to building a proper parlay, Teddy? Because I'm all over the place, and unfortunately, my luck normally it's that third or fourth leg where I get stung.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there is a. I don't know that there is a method to the madness, really, man. This time of year, I will try to do multiple sports, as you know. Like I'll try to do basketball and baseball, and I mean, like I said with baseball, a lot of the times I'm looking for the good pitcher. The guy that has been hot. the guy that's been quality start after quality start. Because, like you said, there's really no rhyme or reason with baseball. But if you have a starter on the mound that you know can give you 6 solid innings, then all right, you're starting off in a good place. That's at least a good jumping off point to start your bet, and hope you can get some run support off that one guy. And then in terms of basketball, I mean, minus the Celtics, the home team has generally been hitting on these bets in these playoffs. Again, that's a big minus the Celtics, because the Celtics have been, I think, right around 500 at the Garden this postseason, which is a stat that I don't really want to go down right now because it upsets me. But I mean, Denver has been incredible on their home court. The Lakers have been incredible on their home court. And same thing with Miami all playoff long. So if you kind of follow that trend for the most part this postseason, and I don't know about hockey, but that's kind of been a nice little nice way to judge your bets.
Um, do you bother with scores? Do you bother with, I mean, over unders? Do you get involved in that?
Over unders in basketball for sure, because it's been very interesting. Like, for one, I forget what the over under last night for the Denver versus Lakers game 2 was, but the game 1 was incredibly high scoring. So just based on that, you kind of had to kind of think, all right, they're going to start to clamp down defensively. You can't have that type of high scoring in a meaningful playoff game. That last night I hit the under, and that did hit. But yeah, I'll get into some of the over unders. That's more of a football thing for me. I think it's easier to tell in football games than basketball, because in basketball, you could have a Jason Tatum or a Steph Curry or like Jamal Murray last night for Denver just get crazy hot. Jamal Murray had 25 points in the fourth quarter last night. That's kind of almost hit that over. So it's really tough in basketball, because if you have a guy like Jason Tatum in Game 7 against Philly that just gets crazy hot, there's no stopping him. That's going to kill your bet, and that's going to be a nice way for you to lose money.
Hey, the Dodgers must have had a middle relief guy that got lit up last night, because I took the over in that game, and it was like 9 runs. All of a sudden, it jumped up.
Yeah, I saw it last time. It was like
Something
9
crazy.
to 8. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about what this feeling is, because I'm in Connecticut, so I'm a little removed from the hysteria. I'm kind of on the border of the New York and the New England. Okay.
Yeah.
And depending on who is doing better at that time, that's who's more vociferous. All right. If the
Right.
Yankees are hot, I
Right.
hear from more Yankee fans. When the Sox are hot, I hear from more Sox fans. So I'm kind of right in the middle. But what is the sense of the Celtics right now? Are people all in, or is there trepidation?
You got to be riding high. I mean, they have the best odds coming from Vegas, best odds to win the championship this year. They made it to the finals last year. Essentially, they bring back a better team than last year. I mean, the big piece is that they got Malcolm Brogdon, who is the sixth man of the year this past season. And that's something that they didn't really have last year in the finals against Golden State, a guy coming off the bench that can give you close to 20 points a game. The big thing, John, for them is what people don't realize is they're now on the second year straight of having a first year head coach. Last year, Ime Udoka was in his first year. This year, Joe Mazzulla is in his first year as head coach. And Joe Mazzulla has taken a lot of criticism. He has, because this series, especially, he's going up against Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat, who I think to be probably the best coach in the NBA right now. Just the adjustments he makes. I mean, you saw it in game 1. The Celtics are winning the first quarter. They're winning the second quarter. They go into halftime. Coming out of the half, Miami Heat outscore them by 21 points in the third quarter. So that's the simple coaching of Eric Spoelstra. That's where you see the X's and O's, the adjustments he makes. On top of that, Joe Mazzulla in that third quarter didn't call a single timeout. That's kind of been a knock on him all year. So that would be the one thing, I think, if you're a Celtics fan, where you're a little concerned. Certainly a little concerned is at the coaching position, because you have Joe Mazzulla, who's 34 years old. He's in his first year as the head coach of the Celtics. On top of that, if you even want to go back further, after the Ime Udoka fallout, Joe Mazzulla really would have been third in line. The next guy in line would have been Will Hardy, the assistant coach for Ime Udoka last year. But Will Hardy got hired by the Utah Jazz. So then it was on to Joe Mazzulla, who really would be third in line. So this is a guy who still is kind of like an assistant coach who 2 weeks before the season got put into this position, has a championship caliber team, and says, all right, go take us back to the finals and win us a championship, win us Banner 18. It's a tall task for someone like that. But if there is one thing that kind of could hinder the Celtics, I would say it's with the coaching, because at the end of the day, regardless, even if he gets past the Miami Heat, he's going to have to go up against another great coach in either Darvin Ham of the Lakers or Mike Malone of the Denver Nuggets. So really, I'd say the one advantage that the Miami Heat have in this series would be their coaching. They have a Hall of Famer coach in Eric Spoelstra, and Joe Mazzulla is still kind of trying to figure this thing out. But other than that, man, I think they have the best team left in the playoffs, no doubt.
So call it now. What are who is the last two left standing here?
Celtics Nuggets. I'm going to go Celtics Nuggets. I mean, it's easy to say because the Nuggets just took a 2-0 lead last night. So it's kind of easy for me to say that. But their home court advantage, the altitude, playing with the altitude over there, it really has kind of seemed to affect teams. Like coming out in the first half, teams going into Denver have been atrocious, have been really, really bad in the first half in Denver. I think that home court advantage plays well for them. Nikola Jokic is incredible. What he's doing as a 7-foot big man is absolutely insane. I think they're a really sharp team, and I think that'd be a fun matchup, Celtics versus Nuggets.
And then what happens there?
You know what I'm going to say, man. Banner 18's coming home to Boston, and I'm going to a fun parade and having a good time in
Do you
Boston.
go? Do you go to the? Well, you better bring a mic.
Absolutely.
You
There's
better bring a microphone
better.
with you. Bring a microphone, man. This is show. This is show material.
Listen, man, it's been a long time since we've had a parade in Boston. We're used to having one every 2 years or so. We're in a drought right now. We need this. We need this big time.
Listen, when I was in grade school, the Islanders hoisted the cup 4 years in a row, almost 5 years in a row, and then it just stopped for the rest of my life. for the next 30 years, it didn't happen again. You know, you have to remind yourself while it's happening that, you know.
I know it, man. I know it. I've been lucky enough to go to a few, and I'm hoping to go to a few more.
Let's finish off on the Sox, and then maybe you could give us a few baseball picks for the weekend. Sox,
man. I think the thing with the Sox right now is you need some pitching. The lineup, in terms of just a mix of young guys and some decent veterans, it's a lineup that can compete. You have a solid lineup, no doubt about that. I mean, it's not turning any heads. It's not a top 5 lineup, but it gets the job done. The issue has to come with the rotation. There's so many question marks. We've seen really, really good from Chris Sale, and we've seen really, really bad. After that, a lot of young guys rounding out the rotation. Brian Bayo, Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock, the question mark of James Paxton. So a lot of moving parts in that rotation. That's got to be the focal point for them. I really didn't have high expectations on them coming into the season, honestly. Did
you see the Rays doing what they're doing?
The Rays, man, they just produce phenomenal pitching. And I think probably the most incredible part about their run so far, John, is that what people don't realize is they're doing it without arguably their best starting pitcher. Tyler Glasnow still hasn't pitched a game for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's on a AAA rehab assignment right now, and he'll be back by the end of the month. And when he's on, he is probably the best pitcher. I mean, no disrespect to Shane McClanahan, because he's incredible as well. But Tyler Glasnow is a Cy Young candidate, and he hasn't even pitched a game for them yet. So that's a really great team. They're going to have some decisions to make because Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco, Yandy Diaz, they're all going to need some big contracts. And in the past, Tampa Bay has not given out big contracts to their players. They're a pretty low budget team. So they have a nice looking team. They can certainly make a run this year. But if they want to continue that, they're going to have to dish out some money to these guys. And I don't know if they're going to be able to.
They're a fun team to watch, okay? And I've always kind of rooted for them as basement dwellers in the East. The storyline could not be any more fascinating. You're in the same division as the Sox and the Yankees,
Yeah.
and here you are doing what you're doing. I've been
Baltimore,
down,
too.
yeah, but
Baltimore. Yeah.
here's the thing. I've been down to the Trop, and there's nobody there. There's just not. And
Yeah, I know
it's a bizarre place to play. However, I don't know if I heard this on your show or on another show, but Tampa Bay's TV ratings are very high.
Oh,
So it's just that
that's interesting.
fans in Florida don't go,
Yeah, that's interesting.
but they're watching the game. So my question
Yeah.
to you is, what the heck should that franchise do? Do they just need a new, smaller stadium, or is it time to relocate them?
A lot of people get annoyed with that stadium too because that's got to be.
It's
I mean, I don't
loud,
have
Teddy. It's loud. The sound of the ball reverberates after the hit. It's disorienting.
and I mean, I feel like at least 5 times a year or so we have a ball that gets hit and touches the roof. I mean, that seems to happen way too
It
frequently over
drives
there.
John Sterling
Yeah.
loses his
Yeah, it
mind.
seems to happen way too often over there. So, I mean, it's a good organization. It really is. I mean, for the past few years, for the past decade, pretty much, they've been in contention a lot. And not to mention, they've been in contention in the best division in baseball. I don't think that there's any real argument that the AL East historically over the past few years has been the best division in baseball, no doubt about it. And Tampa Bay is always right there. They always seem to bring a great group of young players. They develop players extremely well, and they always have a nice staff. They always have some good arms in that rotation.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and I want you to do it in the manner that you do on the big ticket. Give us a parlay and tell us, where to spend this money when we win.
Oh man. Well, this weekend I'll start in basketball. I think on Saturday the Lakers go home and take one. I don't have the numbers in front of me what the line looks like, but I think the Lakers go back to what used to be the Staples Center, now Crypto.com Arena or something like that. I think the Lakers go home and steal one against Denver. I'm taking them. The Celtics are not losing two at the Garden. I'm taking the C's tonight. That's an easy one for me. They're not going down 2-0 and heading back to Miami. It's just not happening. And then after that, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like the Red Sox out in San Diego. I don't like the long ride. And San Diego is now a struggling team that's kind of starting to pick things up. Juan Soto has been playing really, really good baseball. And at the start of the season, they were wondering if Juan Soto was just a bad trade. They thought that this guy just was going to completely fall off. Now he's starting to hit like the MVP candidate he is. So I think that San Diego could be starting to turn a corner. So I'll say San Diego over the Red Sox as much as it kind of kills me this week. But Celtics, Lakers in game 3, and then San Diego, at least to win that series for sure against the Red Sox in San Diego at Petco.
All right, now finish it. What do you say? Lock it in?
Lock that bad boy in, get yourself some walking around money, and support those local businesses.
Teddy, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll come back.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, John.
All right, we'll be listening.
Sounds good. Take care, man.